Although Druidry began as the religious and spiritual path of the ancient Celtic peoples of Europe, modern Druids come from all races and cultures. Everyone has their own opinion of what it is to be a Druid. While these opinions vary in some of the details, most people who call themselves Druids have a few characteristics in common. If you could distill these characteristics down into a few principles shared by all Druids, you would probably come up with something the Black Mountain Druid Order calls the 4 sacred pillars. These 4 sacred pillars are, first, reverence for nature and for our ancestors. This means that Druids hold nature and all her forms to be sacred. Druids recognize that we are not separate from nature. What we do to the web of life, we do to ourselves. We treat all life forms as sacred brothers and sisters on a journey together. Does this mean that Druids worship nature? That would depend on what you mean by the word worship. Personally, I don't like the word because of its negative power dynamics. I prefer the word revere because it indicates respect without suggesting dominance. From this perspective, we are all partners with nature and its creatures. Think of the respect you may hold for an honored elder grandmother or grandfather, and you'll gain an understanding of the difference between reverence and worship. While you may hold respect and even reverence for an elderly relative, you probably wouldn't worship them. Likewise, a healthy and emotionally secure ancestor would not want or require worship, but communion. Such a communion would involve common reverence for each other and for the divine within each of us. The next sacred pillar is respect for diversity and individuality. This pillar recognizes the right of the individual to self-determination. While the path I walk is right for me, it might not be the right one for you. By respecting your right to determine your own individual path, I honor the diversity in the universe and in you. By expressing tolerance, I allow you the freedom to be who you are, and ask that you grant me the same freedom. The Wiccan Rede expresses this idea as, "And it harm none, do what you will." In the Black Mountain Druid Order, the idea is expressed in the Latin phrase primum non nocere, first do no harm. Imagine what a different world we could create if we could all simply agree not to harm each other, in spite of our differences. Note also that this respect for diversity does not imply tolerance of intolerance. My intolerance of another's intolerance is not intolerance itself. It is justice. Our order strives for social justice, and one of the principles of social justice is to proactively challenge intolerance whenever we see it, so that all people have an equal chance at happiness and growth. The third sacred pillar is service to the grove, to the community, and to the world. One of the aspects of recognizing our part in the web of life is the realization that we are all interconnected. If I work for the good of my own grove, my community, and the world, I ultimately benefit myself by improving living conditions for all. Conversely, if I act in a way that harms my community, I ultimately harm myself. This is similar to another Wiccan principle, the threefold law, which states that whatever you send out returns to you threefold. This has been expressed in Christianity as the idea of what you sow, so you reap. In Druidry, the idea is expressed in terms of balance. If you act in a way that unbalances nature, nature acts to correct all that balance. In our order, Druids actively work for social and environmental change, so that ultimately life improves for all. In doing so, we restore balance to nature and to the world. The fourth and final pillar is spiritual and personal growth. As a spiritual path, Druidry offers many opportunities for learning and self-improvement. A goal of Druidry is to always seek the imbus or the awen. Imbus is a Gallic word roughly translated as divine inspiration or spiritual strength. Its Welsh counterpart is awen. The imbus is the means by which we seek the beauty of the world around us. It's also the inspiration that leads us to seek visions and to walk into the other world. From a Druid's perspective in our order, knowledge and inspiration go hand in hand. Where knowledge meets inspiration, there is wisdom. So the imbus can guide us to the wisdom we seek in the knowledge of the truth. The 4 sacred pillars of our order may be summarized succinctly as reverence, respect, service, and growth. So in answer to the question, what is Druidry in our order, I would say that if you have a deep respect for nature and our ancestors, and an abiding love of diversity and individual freedom, and if you're interested in personal growth, and if you would like to use these interests for the betterment of yourself, your community, and the world at large, then Druidry in our order might be the path you're seeking. The four sacred pillars are the core ethical principles of the Black Mountain Druid Order. They are the only beliefs or doctrines required for membership in our order. Because of this, students of the Black Mountain Druid Order are asked to think and reflect deeply on what the four sacred pillars mean to them. Here are a few questions to think about as you explore the way of the Druid in the Black Mountain Druid Order. First, in what ways do you show reverence for nature, for your ancestors? In what ways do you show respect for diversity and individuality? Are there any challenges you face in this area? In what ways do you serve your grove, assuming you have one? How do you serve your community? How do you serve the world at large? In what ways do you seek spiritual and personal growth? As you ponder these questions, you will come to understand what it's like to practice Druidry in the Black Mountain Druid Order. In both ancient and modern practices of Druidry, a period of apprenticeship is usually required prior to taking the path. This is also true of the Black Mountain Druid Order. Druidry is a lifelong path, and such a path requires a lifetime of dedication. Only 1 in 10 people who start the Druid path see it through to completion. Such a commitment is not a decision to be taken lightly. Because of this, many Druid and pagan groups require a period of reflection on what it means to be a Druid before accepting a dedicant into full membership. Brehon law, which is the code of laws used by ancient Ireland during the Gallic period, prescribes a period of a year and a day of consideration before making many major decisions, and many Druid orders adhere to this rule. The Black Mountain Druid Order is no exception. The exercises and meditations contained in our foundational Druidry course are designed to be completed over the period of a year and a day. During this year, you'll spend time learning about the trees and plants of the Ogham. You will also have the opportunity to celebrate the Wheel of the Year by participating in all 8 of the high days of the Wheel and the Sun Path. Finally, you'll be able to reflect on your own inner spiritual journey by completing the exercises in the Moon Path. At the end of this year of study, you will have a good basic understanding of what it means to walk in the light of the Druid path as practiced by the Black Mountain Druid Order. If at the end of this year you find that Druidry is the path for you, there will be several episodes in this series that will serve as a guide to self-initiation as a Druid in our order. There are also instructions on finding a group in your area that may welcome you into the fold. Be aware that if you're interested in joining a particular order, each has its own path for dedicants, so the other orders may not accept the work you do with the Black Mountain Druid Order as meeting the requirements for their initiation in their order. And of course, if you're particularly interested in the Black Mountain Druid Order, then the work you do here will give you a good basic grounding in our ways and teachings. We never charge for membership. We prefer a pay-it-forward philosophy. You can apply for membership at our website at blackmountaindruidry.com. You'll also find a directory of groves associated and affiliated with the Black Mountain Druid Order on our website, and you may be able to find one near where you are. And if not, you're also welcome to start one with our guidance. We also hold an initiatory rite once a year at Samhain, in or near the location of our Mother Grove in the Tacoma, Washington area. The Black Mountain Druid Order's teachings are designed particularly for those who choose a solitary path, sometimes referred to as hedge druidry. Druidry tends to be more solitary than most pagan paths. Although we do get together on occasion as well, there's certainly no obligation to do so. Since many contemporary pagans of all stripes tend to follow a more solitary path, largely due to the fact that it can often be difficult to find a local group, teachings of our order were written with that in mind. But of course, you're also welcome at any gathering of the Black Mountain Mother Grove. When Druids get together to celebrate the high days, their groups are usually referred to as groves. A grove is a gathering of Druids, sometimes referred to as a circle. If you find at the end of your year of dedication that you would like to start your own grove, there are tips and suggestions on how to do so at the website at blackmountaindruidry.com. of the shamanic or vision-seeking practices of ancient druids was the tarbfish, known as bull sleep or bull dreaming. In this rite, the druid would sacrifice a white bull, then eat its meat and drink its blood and a broth made of its flesh. After this meal, the seeker would wrap himself in the bull's hide and go to sleep. The dream he had while wrapped in this hide was said to indicate who the next king would be. Scholars differ on whether or not the broth consumed by the druid contained any psychotropic substances. We'll probably never know. The rite does, however, contain a couple of other elements common to shamanic rites throughout the world. The first is the animal sacrifice. The next is the sensory deprivation provided by the bull's hide, and finally, the element of sleeping to seek a vision. It may be possible to add another element of shamanic vision-seeking as well. In the tale of the cattle raid of Cooley, the druid McGroth advises King Alil and Queen Maeve while wearing a bull's hide robe and a headdress made of feathers. The story then says that McGroth rose up with the fire into the skies. This is the archetypal out-of-body experience common to shamans from all over the world. In those days, roundhouses were heated by a fire in the center with a hole in the roof for the smoke to escape through. It's easy to picture the druid's spirit rising up with the smoke through the hole in the roof to sail off to other realms. If we consider the way McGroth is dressed in the story, then the bull hide used in the tarbfish could serve the additional function of being the vision seeker's robe. Such robes were sometimes used in shape-shifting rites as well, and the bull is and was a sacred symbol of the goddess. The significance of this connection needs a little more explaining. In ancient Irish kingdoms, the king was said to be wed to the land. If the king suffered, then the land suffered, and vice versa. The land was represented by the goddess. So when a druid engaged in the tarbfish, it is possible that he was consulting the goddess about who her future mate would be. The idea here was the sovereignty of the land. This meant that the primary duty of the king was to be a steward of the land, and as the land's spouse, the future king must be able to assure the health and prosperity of the land. So a druid engaging in tarbfish was consulting with the goddess as the land embodied to see which candidate might be best able to accomplish this goal. One of the best examples of the tarbfish occurs in the destruction of Dadurga's hostel. This tale tells the story of the birth, life, and death of Conaire Mór, son of Eterskel Mór, a high king of Ireland. He is killed by 3 mysterious men dressed in red and riding red horses. Dadurga means red god, so this tale probably indicates that Conaire Mór had fallen out of favor for breaking his geasa, or taboos, and was to be replaced as High King. In the Irish pantheon, the Don was the god of death, and was also known as the Red God. Ultimately, Conaire Mór is killed because he was forced by circumstances to break all of his geasa. In the story, a druid then engages the tarbfish to determine who the next king will be. The tarbfish is not exclusive to Celtic culture either. There are elements of the ritual in Norse lore as well. A bloat in Norse pagan practices implies an animal sacrifice, as the word bloat literally means blood. In modern times, it's come to mean any sacrifice, and by extension, any worship of the gods. In the time of our ancestors, animal sacrifice was by far the most common type of bloat. Such bloats were usually accompanied by a sacrificial feast. The tarbfish was thus a critical component of selecting a new king in ancient Ireland, and the origins of the rite might go back even further than Celtic culture. What does this mean for modern druids? Obviously, no modern druid can be called upon to be selecting a future king, but there are elements of a rite that can still be used by druids today who are seeking visions. The first of these elements is the idea of eating or having a full stomach before vision seeking. Proper vision seeking is an energy-intensive endeavor, so having a full stomach before beginning makes success more likely. The second is sensory deprivation. Ancient druids wrapped themselves in a bull's hide for this purpose, but you can use whatever you have handy. It could be a blanket or a sweat lodge, or just a room with the curtains drawn and the lights out. Sensory deprivation turns your focus inward with no distractions, and it's a prerequisite for successful vision seeking. It also helps if the method you're using to achieve sensory deprivation has some association with the goddess, as the bull's hide did in ancient times. Finally, there's the dreaming aspect. I personally believe that it's not necessary to fall asleep to have a vision, as I've had quite a few myself while being in a trance state induced by a full belly and sensory deprivation. So it may be that actual sleep and dreaming is not necessary to secure a vision. My suggestion would be to do whatever works best for you. When you find a formula that helps you to seek your own visions, you'll be honoring a tradition that may be thousands of years old. Are you interested in nature-centered spirituality? Are you looking to learn more about contemporary Druid practices? Did you know that the Black Mountain Druid Order has a free course in Druidry? Our foundational Druidry course covers the Wheel of the Year, basic herbalism, the Om alphabet, meditation, dream work, and vision seeking. It also teaches you how to begin doing your own shadow work. You'll also explore some rites of passage celebrated by our order. The foundational Druidry course is always free, and you're under no obligation to join our order if you decide that the way of the Druid is not for you. Find out more by visiting Black Mountain Druid Order's website at blackmountaindruidorder.com. There are 13 moons in the tree calendar used by the Black Mountain Druid Order. The previous video discussed how these are calculated. For further information, you can also visit our website at blackmountaindruidorder.com. The origins of the tree calendar are somewhat controversial. Robert Graves, the author of the book The White Goddess, claims to have discovered a code in Welsh bardic poetry that helped him to derive the calendar. Graves claimed that his derivation of the tree calendar had its origins in ancient Druidry and the bardic tradition, but most scholars doubt this. I prefer to think that the origins of the calendar are irrelevant as long as it has utility for us now. Many pagans throughout the world use Graves' version of the calendar today because of its elegance and utility, and we do too for that same reason. Each month of the tree calendar is associated with a tree or another plant. A horoscope can be constructed by listing the properties of each tree in the calendar. The tree or plant associated with your birth month would be your birth tree. One of the exercises for the Dedicant Path of Druidry in the Black Mountain Druid Order is to spend a year and a day learning about a tree or a plant. Usually you would spend this time period in learning about your birth tree, but for those living in urban or suburban environments, finding a birth tree can be challenging. If you're fortunate enough to have access to a birth tree, you may wish to use it for your period of study. If not, you can select another tree. It may also be that when you find your birth tree, it doesn't quite resonate with you. That's okay too. Many Druids, including Druids of the Black Mountain Druid Order, believe in reincarnation, and it would be arbitrary to focus on the date of your birth in this life if you've lived multiple lives prior to this one. If you find that your birth tree doesn't really fit you, then select one that you feel more comfortable with. Once you've found a tree that you're ready to work with, you'll need to actually find one of these trees near your home. This tree should be located in a place that would make it convenient to visit at least once a week. You may be fortunate enough to have such a tree in your backyard. If not, maybe you can find one at a local park. In the previous video, we reviewed the dates that the tree calendar covers. In this video, we're going to talk a bit about what each of these moons means for people born into them. The dates given here are for non-leap years in the Northern Hemisphere. If you were born in a leap year, or if you were born in the Southern Hemisphere, visit the Black Mountain Druid Order website for further information. December 13th to January 19th is the Birch Moon. Its aspect is feminine. This is a moon of beginnings, purification, and inception. The white of the birch's bark symbolizes purity and the goddess Rhyd. This month also symbolizes the protection of children. Birch people are creative and compassionate. Birch people also have a firm inner resolve and lend strength to those around them. Birches are quietly determined, often working for change behind the scenes. Common sense and practical, clear solutions to problems are strengths for birch people. January 20th to February 16th is the Rowan moon. Its aspect is masculine. The wood of the rowan is often used for making wands and tools of divination. This is the moon of shamans and seers. Rowan people are associated with personal empowerment, healing, and vision. Rowan people have a keen sense of intuition. This powerful intuition is often used to protect self and others. Their ability to see the future often sets them apart from others. They sometimes seem to live in two worlds at once. February 17th to March 15th is the ash moon. Its aspect is feminine. Ash is another popular wood for crafting magic tools. The feminine energy of the ash is associated with water spirits and the powers of water. Ash people are associated with prosperity, protection, and the healing arts. Ash people have a special ability to see the connections in the web of life. They're natural empaths and share the pains and joys of others. This makes them very compassionate people. March 16th to April 12th is the alder moon. Its aspect is masculine. Alder people are practical people. They focus on solutions. They're dutiful and they are good teachers. Alder people are usually quite intelligent, and the power of weather magic is associated with this moon. They also love to fight for what's right and expend a great deal of energy in pursuing justice. They can sometimes dissipate energy needlessly by getting involved in frivolous debates. April 13th to May 10th is the willow moon. This aspect is feminine. The willow moon is known as the witch's moon. It's associated with fertility and balance. Willow people are romantic, well-rounded, and certain of themselves. The willow is associated with the moon in all of her phases, and this means that willow people are driven more by instinct than intellect. If you're a willow, pay attention to your dreams and let your heart guide you. May 11th to June 7th is hawthorn moon. This aspect is masculine. People of the hawthorn are people capable of self-restraint. This moon is associated with peace, prosperity, and binding magic. It's a sign of both fertility and death. Hawthorn deals with the necessity of change and transition. If you're a hawthorn, your motto is, "This too shall pass." June 8th to July 5th is the oak moon. This aspect is masculine. Oak people are strong, wise, and secure. People born under this moon are also true and faithful. It's associated with the energy of the bear. If you are an oak, you are concerned with strength of character, and your word is your bond. You're able to endure, but direct your energies wisely, lest you unintentionally harm others in your zeal. July 6th to August 2nd is the holly moon. Its aspect is feminine. This moon is associated with the powers of protection. Holly people have the gift of divination, and they are protectors of the animals. Holly is also associated with the powers of sex magic. Holly people have a deep connection to the earth, and they have a generous spirit that commands the respect and admiration of others. August 3rd to August 30th is the hazel moon. Its aspect is feminine. This is the moon of the wise. It's associated with the wisdom of the elders. People of the hazel are said to be good at spirit contact and at manifesting their desires. If you're a hazel, the gift of persuasion is yours. You have the ability to help others to see things your way and to resolve conflicts. Moderate this gift by only giving advice when it's been asked for. August 31st to September 27th is the vine moon. Its aspect is androgynous. Vine people are people who know how to celebrate. This moon is sacred to Breed and is associated with spirituality, dream magic, and inspiration. Vine people are courageous people. They're also very sociable and have the gift of reading the thoughts and emotions of others. If you're a vine, you're able to restore balance to most situations by smoothing over ruffled feathers and finding a common solution. September 28th to October 25th is Ivy Moon. This aspect is masculine. Ivy people tend to be resilient and adaptive. They thrive in most situations. They're also very cooperative people and natural peacemakers. If you're an Ivy, you have a talent for advancing your own personal agenda. Moderate this gift by being considerate of others when advancing your plans. October 26th to November 22nd is the Reed or the Elm Moon. Its aspect is feminine. Reed or elm energy is associated with the hearth and the home. Elm people are protectors of the family and speakers of truth. They keep the home fires burning. They often have hidden secret strengths that even they may not be aware of. They also have secret motivations. If you are a Reed or an Elm, use your ability to figure things out wisely and don't overstep your boundaries. November 23rd to December 20th is the Elder Moon. This aspect is masculine. Elder people are good at managing negative energies. This is their power of healing. This moon is also associated with the power of reincarnation and rebirth. It's a moon of completeness. Elders are able to thrive and prosper even in adverse conditions. This is because they've lived many lives and they carry bits of wisdom from former lives into this life. So, did you learn about yourself by going through the chart? Let's talk a bit now about developing a relationship with your tree. To begin exploring the wealth of knowledge to be gained from the trees and plants of the Ogham, you start by selecting a tree to spend a year and a day with. This tree can be your birth tree, or any other tree that you feel drawn to. This should be a tree that you have a strong relationship with. If you haven't developed a relationship with a tree, go out into the woods, preferably in the spring of the year, and select one that seems to call to you. Spend a year cultivating a relationship with that tree. Sit under its branches in the shade while meditating. Study its leaves, its branches, its roots, and its bark. Research the folklore associated with your tree. Are there any medicinal uses for your tree? Does your tree have any magical uses? How is your tree like you? How is it different? What strengths does your tree have that you find lacking in yourself? What strengths do you possess that your tree does not? What can you learn about yourself from studying your tree? As you learn about your tree, don't forget to bring it gifts from time to time. Talk to your tree and listen for a reply. Don't expect answers in words. Listen with your heart and with your spirit. Spend the entire year and a day learning from your tree and befriending it. You should get to know your tree in all seasons. Watch how it changes from season to season. Know its moods and its habits. Know its needs and its gifts. Become an expert on your tree. According to Julius Caesar, Druids studied for a period of 20 years. Not counting the vowels, there are 20 letters in the Ogham alphabet. So if you spend a year studying each one of the trees or plants associated with the consonants of the Ogham, you'd have studied for the same length of time as ancient Druids. Coincidence? What do you think? Hi, this is Shinka Skane, Chief of the Black Mountain Druid Order. If you're enjoying Black Mountain Druidry, don't forget to subscribe and leave any comments or questions below. You can learn more about the Black Mountain Druid Order or become a member by visiting the website at blackmountaindruidorder.com. Thanks for watching, and as always, blessings of the ancestors on you and yours.